This broadcast is inappropriate for all ages right here on hashtag WeAreMovieClub. It's time for Bad Movie Club. It's where you get your BMs and the PMs. Right here, movies so bad they are made, or movie ideas so bad they are made manifest, and we watch them to, that is not the right background. There we are. I fixed it. We had the Descent up still, because that's what we watched on Scary Movie Squad, what we watch on Fridays over on Rabbit/Camera. This past Sunday, we watched Daredevil and Doctor Strange for Sunday double feature night. We're on Rabbit/Camera. We're Bad Movie Club, and we are Movie Club. And a kitty. I'm about to put the camera on you, and you look goofy right now. You and your little redneck teeth. Alright. Anyways, so we're here talking about Daredevil. Let me clarify a couple things right up front. This is not the Netflix series. This is the 2003 Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner film. Colin Farrell's in it as Bullseye. One of my favorite heroes. Michael Clark Duncan is Kingpin. This is not the Netflix series. This is not MCU canon. This is before the MCU. And Hulk, I think, is the only thing that got retconned in from around this time period. So throw out any of your Marvel theories for any of this concerning things. I'm going to rip your tail off. It's my desk. Stop. Every time I move to give you a little bit more room, you just take it up. Ugh. Ugh. Worst roommate ever. Okay. It's okay, kitty. Okay. Secondly, I'm not a huge Ben Affleck fan. Like, I was real skeptical about him being Batman, but I really liked him in this back in the day. I thought he did a really good job. I didn't like that it delayed, when I found out about it anyways, that it delayed the shooting of Jersey Girl because Kevin Smith recommended him for the role. I'm not a big fan of Jennifer Garner, even though I know she's like the main love interest. She doesn't come off Greek to me at all, but she's got a really fit body and pretty hair. I don't know if it's her face, her acting style. I like her in like 13 Going on 30. There's a couple other movies where she does a good job. It's not that she's a bad actress either, but I don't like her. I don't think she fits the role. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't like her as Elektra. So this next week when we do Elektra for Bad Movie Club, it's gonna be a friggin' trial. So that's running in the background. Now, granted, too, when I first saw this in 2003, the CG was top notch. That is not the case throughout the movie, and I'll be happy to point out where I've noted it, but my notes were pretty shit for this because we had some drama going on in the chat rooms, and it was distracting because I like trying to help people, but often it fucks me over more than it helps anyone else. So I'm going to put my arm up your butt. I'm going to throw you on the bed. Stop fighting me. He's like kicking me and stuff now. I don't like it. So imagine New York City. What is the one thing we have to open on? A rat! It's just a rat running. I don't even know where he's running to, but like I think we pan out again. It opens on a church, and Daredevil kind of like doing a stripper pole hump on a cross on the steeple of the church. Now, granted, too, this is like a 6-7 story. It's gonna get higher every time I say it, so it's like probably legitimately a 5-story church. I have no idea why it's 5 stories high, how anyone maintains that, or how you structurally engineer a empty space 5 stories high. Because the steeple, the tower, if you will, is literally an open tower 5 stories high. No idea how any of that works. Very pretty, though. Very pretty. Catholics are good at building pretty cathedrals, or impressive cathedrals, because sometimes they're not pretty, but they're still impressive. So he lowers himself into the church. No idea how he gets from the roof to inside. Again, he's on top of this tower that just has windows on it. so many mysteries that you open up the movie with. Because the cord on his billy club is so long. Not only is it so long, there's no idea like how you get the grappling hook undone for the billy club to retract. And it comes in as important later because he uses that billy club against Bullseye. So, I like personally, at 5 stories, you just let the damn thing go. If it falls back down, fantastic. But he essentially like comes down and then lays down, starts bleeding on the floor of the church, and a priest rushes over and quickly removes his mask of all things, and he recognizes him as Matt. Daredevil's real name is Matt Murdock. And we immediately go into a flashback. So not only are we doing the in media res where like we start, I apologize, it's not true in media res, but where we start at the end of the movie. I'm spoiling that right now. It's like the primer to the third act is where we start. Then we cut back to him as a kid. And we have another, like a third of the movie there. It's not the pacing. The pacing is actually good, but the chronological structure of the story is maddening. It's like Pulp Fiction maddening. And I can't say Pulp Fiction bad because enough people like that movie that I feel awful saying that it's bad, but I don't like it. I don't like how they cut that movie up either. So maybe this is a nod to Tarantino. I don't know. But we go back to him as a kid. He's getting picked on 3-to-1 bullying. His dad's implicated for working for the mob. And his dad just wants him to hit the books and become smart, to be a doctor or a lawyer, because apparently those are the only 2 jobs in the world where people always respect you. And I don't think that's true. There's plenty of assholes that go to better schools too. But Matt goes, for whatever reason, Matt goes looking for his dad down at the docks because his dad's bitching about working double shifts all the time. So maybe he was going to try to like make his dad's day a little better. But he finds out he hasn't been working there months, and he finally finds him and he's shaking somebody down for money. So obviously he does work for the mob. So his dad's not only been lying to him, but he's a bad guy. And I'm sure there's been all these moral foundations of like, don't be the perpetrator, don't be the bad guy, be the good guy, because the father always wants more for the son. You know, it's not there's a point and purpose to that metaphor in there. He's doing bad things to eventually provide a good thing for the people that he cares about. But we see it later in the movie, too. Daredevil ends up chasing a guy back to his house, and his daughter's crying there because Daredevil's about to kill her daddy. Because we never see our parents as the bad guys when we love them. Because they're more, like, the people you love are more important than objective justice. So that whole explanation of, like, I'm not the bad guy kid gets played back over the course of his life of, like, what is the right thing to do or whatnot. And then, like, his dad had the same problem. So it's very comic booky in that, like, it has that underlying question, that theme based on the character. Because that's what these comics were meant to do. Like, the Hulk was supposed to be dealing with, like, man versus himself, like, to the extremist degree. There's the X-Men are like, what happens when you're outcast from society? What if you're gay? What if you're trans? That's what X-Men is supposed to represent. Like, you've got something special inside you, but it doesn't match with the outside world's expectations. So what do you do with it? If the answer isn't supposed to be throw it in their face and make them hurt for it, the answer is supposed to be you live your life as you and do you to the best of your abilities. That's a little bit of a tangent, so let's not go too far down that rabbit hole. But of course, as he's running away from his dad, shaking somebody down, I have no idea where he thought he was going, but he just starts running through random shipyards and stuff. So of course, he's relieving stress, sure. But like, he runs through this bio thing, and instead of getting like a forklift to the eye to blind him, the forklift dodges and then hits the bio waste, and that hits him in the face, which blinds him. And when he wakes up, he's got this oversensory experience, which is fantastic. It was actually a really powerful moment. That kid actor did a really good job with that. Like, he made me believe that he was blind and that he did not know what the fuck was going on, and he was scared about it. So, good job, kid. I'm sure he's much older now. It's been 15 years. But I'm just saying, credit where credit's due. To do that back when he was a kid, yeah. I blame you. You sit there when these lights are on. For some reason, you just shit at me. Goddamn cat. And then he cuddles up to me, too. He won't do this at night when it's actually cold, but he'll do it when it's hot as balls with these lights on, and I don't know what to do with you. You're a monster. Okay, so we actually have movies to talk about. So they make an agreement to try to, like, be better people. Jack keeps boxing. Obviously, Matt learns Braille and starts hitting the books over and over and over again. And his dad even, like, stands up to the mobsters, which you gotta have a better play than just, I'm gonna stand here. Because they're criminals. They don't care about the law. They live in a world where it's acceptable to kill one another. It's acceptable for them to kill other people. So, like, you gotta live in that world and be like, you would have done it to me. Bang. Otherwise, you don't get anywhere, really. I'm not promoting people go out and murder each other. I'm just saying there's a reality to the situation. But, of course, the mobsters kill him. They leave a rose because Kingpin. It's not super obvious at that point in the movie, but we jump back to the present. After all that introductory of Matt as a kid, we get to see kind of like what it is to be blind. For whatever reason, he wakes up in a tank. I think there's a couple reasons for that. You got to remember that Daredevil is a street level hero. He's not a superhero like some of these people are. Not even like Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Jessica Jones. He's the weak one. He gets his ass kicked a lot, but his super hearing ability helps minimize that. But he has to put his ass on the line, get beat up. So, like, the tank not only helps dull the sensory experience as he's trying to go to sleep, but, like, he can also put Epsom salt in it and whatnot, and then, like, that helps his wounds heal a little better, so that he can walk into court and be like, yeah, I'm missing a tooth, but I'm not all sore and limping. Matt Murdock lives an insane life. And Jennifer Lawrence, maybe it's Jennifer Jones, She-Hulk lives a very different life than Matt. So I was always impressed how, like, those can both be lawyer superheroes that, like, are so different. Oh no, it's not Banner, because they don't have the same last name. Okay, so let's move my notes forward here. So, of course, it's a court case because Matt's a lawyer now. There's a guy named Quesada who's lying on the thing. He uses this is not super interesting. This is a lot of what the movie got flack for, and I was into it because it's showing details of, like, what's going on, which is his hearing, that he can use his hearing to detect that he's lying. And it doesn't just tell us that, it's a movie. It shows us that second by second by second. And really, like, we dropped a lot of that pretense. Like, when he does it in the Netflix series, it's very much like they just skipped all the thing. It's just like, it's perjury to lie on the stand. And they move along. It flows a lot better. So there are some problems with it slowing down for the point of, like, oh, won't this be cool? Well, there's not a lot of people that, like, really are fans of being blind versus being a superhero doing cool things versus them being explained to them in excruciating detail. So that was a little bit of the problem with this movie, is that it's kind of continues through the whole thing. But regardless, Quesada ends up being acquitted. He loses the case. But, of course, Murdock's already determined that he's guilty, so he's going to go after him as the Daredevil. Now, I have to say that this has got to make Matt one of the laziest lawyers ever, because as soon as he realizes that, like, he's actually guilty, then he knows whether or not the case goes through, the Daredevil's coming for him. So Matt Murdock doesn't have to work as hard anymore. So they don't need to win, per se, because Daredevil's going to go take care of it. It's demotivating to actually win and be good at your job, though, like, Foggy probably keeps him honest a little bit. Uh, oh yeah, so okay, so the whole thing is that he goes to a nightclub where apparently like at least half the bar wants to kill Daredevil, because Quesada, I don't think he does anything to Daredevil until he gets to the subway. Like, Daredevil's just there, and then everyone's shooting at him. He manages to dodge a bunch of bullets, or he blocks them with other stuff. He works his way around the room, beating the shit out of like 30 people. And Quesada's like lying on the ground crying for most of it. Eventually, the bar goes silent. Quesada takes off. Daredevil pursues, like Jason Voorhees of all things, just walking after him. Slow pace. It's so ridiculous, but it's so Daredevil. It's what I wanted out of the Daredevil from the Netflix series that I didn't get, because by that point he's super Catholic and he's against murder, whereas this Daredevil is still conflicted like he is in the comics, and he's not Avengers material like Cap thinks he is, like by the time he's prompted to join the new Avengers, because he was a murderer for a long time and he recognizes that, and eventually he hit his point where he's like, I'm not going to do that anymore. If you watch Arrow, Daredevil had a very similar come to Jesus moment with himself that Arrow did, where he's like, I'm not going to kill people anymore. It's not right. I failed the city. It's my Oliver Queen, I guess. So after the subway, where like the most impossible subway scene ever. Where, long story short, he leaves him on the track to get hit by the train, and then the police have to investigate. The reporter has to investigate, and there's like DD written in gasoline on the thing. How long did he stay afterwards and spend that when he can't see it? I don't know. It's just a really lame part of the movie. But he ends up getting back to the apartment. There's voicemails about his booty calls being upset with him after he leaves, because she can't understand where he goes at 3 o'clock in the morning. He rips a tooth out. Like, that's how much he gets beat up on a regular basis. How often does he go to the dentist and get like caps and stuff put in? Or I guess whole implants. Of course, he's still got to maintain his ability as a lawyer, so he can't sleep in all day like Batman used to because he was rich. Matt's a struggling lawyer, if that. So, of course, he's got arguments with Foggy the next day, and then they're at a cafe. Elektra walks in. So not only does he poison Foggy, or just he tricked Foggy into poisoning himself, he manages to use his blind to gain some sympathy points with Elektra. And then they have like the most awesome fight on the playground, because I love just they're like having a karate kung fu match or whatever you want to call it, like on seesaws and shit, which is fun. But then you got kids in the background just swinging, watching the fight. Fight, 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 kiss, 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 kiss. And they managed to fight to a reasonable draw. And her bodyguards show up, and I still think that's a reasonable thing to be shocked by, that Elektra has bodyguards, but it makes sense because she's heir to the Nachio's fortune. So it's not that surprising. Of course, he doesn't get her number, but she ends up stalking him later, and they go make out on a roof or something. So I don't know. We get introduced to the Kingpin. It's Michael Clark Duncan. Everyone loves Michael Clark Duncan. I really don't know anyone who isn't racist that doesn't like Michael Clark Duncan. I really don't know that many people who are racist, so I should have just said, like, I can't think of anyone I know that doesn't like Michael Clark Duncan. I tend not to keep knowing racists. Just a good policy. You should adopt it. But we do get to see the bar, and this, I don't know why. I think this is what makes the movie for me. The villain drives the movie. I've always argued against the villain is the protagonist. He's the one that moves the story forward by stirring the shit. And that's kind of where the antagonist comes in. It's like he's the one that causes problems, and the hero, I guess, moves us towards the resolution as a protagonist. Typically. But for whatever reason, he's sitting there doing a pint, throwing things sideways, like out of peripheral vision, perfect. The point where he's stacking darts on darts. And the asshole that is betting against him is like best 2 out of 3. It's just like you're wasting everyone's time, and instead of smack talking him, it's just that's it. Colin Farrell is a genius actor because of Bullseye. I think he's so fantastic the way he did it. He's a couple other good movies too, but like this is my favorite role he's ever done, and I'm excited just talking about it. Because of course the idiot, the biggity fuck, calls him Irish trash, so he ends up taking off his Will hat, and he's got the big bullseye thing there, which should have freaked everyone out from the start. But then he does magic where he unbends a paperclip all really quick like, and then he throws a bunch into the dude's throat. And I'm not saying the guy deserved it or that he was even asking for it, but if you can see someone do that with darts, leave them alone. Pay up your money because you were an asshole that ran your mouth too much, and let them leave. Oh, God. Okay. Let's see. Where are we at? Bullseye. Now, Matt, as a lawyer, has a responsibility to do research from time to time. Granted, there's police reports and things that you can find, but nothing really gets you the best results like breaking into a crime scene and looking for yourself. Oh man, so like there's that, and for whatever magic he is, he gets some clues, and he ends up determining that the victim was killed inside the apartment and dragged out, and then that the blood was cleaned. Because apparently people take good money to clean things that way. And a mob, especially a mobster like Kingpin, is going to have those guys on call. So it's completely viable. So let's see. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about where... okay, so we go to court, more people are relying on the stand. It's a fast-paced change here because we're going from scene to scene to scene, and they're drawn out scenes, but they don't add a lot to the thing. The Elektra stalks Matt's scene just leads him to taking her to the roof so he can see the rain on her. He can see her, which is actually a really cool CG effect, but not necessarily something everybody's going to get super excited about and write home to mom. Be like, guess what I saw? It's awesome. And then they're making out. The point is that they like each other. That they're invested. That's what you're supposed to get out of that scene. And it's supposed to move you a little bit because you can immerse yourself into the characters, per se. And then we're going to the alley. I mentioned this already, where he runs down a guy and he tells his daughter that he's not the bad guy. But of course, that's not how the kid's going to see it. It's just not. So at the church, he talks to the priest. This is not back to the beginning of the movie priest, but like he is talking to him as Matt, I think. Over the office, he gets invited to the ball. Kingpin's there, Nachios is there, Elektra's there. They're the same thing when I wrote the note, but like the point is too that her dad's there. And then it turns out like through a conversation, like the characters all kind of mix and meet and face off a little bit. That Kingpin, for whatever reason, probably because Nachios would play ball. Oh yeah, because he said he's out. He was trying to get Kingpin to buy him out of the investments. Which honestly, no, I guess yeah, because if you don't have anything to lose anymore from it staying alive, I guess you're not motivated. You just rat him out and be like, I used to work for the Kingpin. It was this guy, and this happened, and that happened, and okay. So I see Kingpin's position. It's not necessary. Well, we've seen a couple things where like he apparently liked killing, but it is what it is. But he makes it very clear to Nachios that he wants him dead, and that so apparently that's why Bullseye is there. There's some ridiculous CGI or CG in this movie where it looks like Daredevil or Bullseye or whoever they're working with at the time looks like a rubber doll. I just want to say that's 2003 CG. I guess I can't point it out in every scene because I didn't mark it every scene, but it was funny as hell. And one of the scenes is literally where Matt is running alongside a limo that's probably going 30 miles per hour, but he's up on the rooftops, So not only is he running at 30 miles per hour to match this limo, but he's jumping from building to building and possibly occasionally swinging with the billy club. And of course, he gets spotted by Elektra because he's not the master of stealth, because he can't see who could see him. But if he's following the limo, he knows where it's at. I don't know. I don't know what part of this to be upset about. Because it could have been so much worse, but it's not. So, but of course, we get this great thing that reminds me of how insane the Joker is, where Bullseye, like, positions himself with the limo because he happens to know which limo it is. Don't ask me how, but he does a standing move on the motorcycle, and he takes the stars from his belt and throws them at the limousine. Which I don't know how he refills his stars on his belt. Don't know how he does that. So it ends up crashing the limousine, and he lines up. I don't know how that he expects to kill Nachos in the first place, but he can pretty much grab whatever and kill anyone anyways. I think maybe he was saving the toothpick for it. Regardless, like, he tries, the Daredevil's in the way. They have like this face off, and Daredevil's running at him, and he's on the motorcycle, and Daredevil jumps onto the motorcycle, and instead of being toppled by it, manages to quickly climb up the front of the motorcycle. I can't get the words out. That's how ridiculous it is. And kick him in the face. Which, if he had straight drop kicked him in the chest, could have given that to him. But the fact that he touches the motorcycle first changes all the physics involved. So the great thing, there's a scene where there's a part where he makes Bullseye miss because he can hear it coming. So he can position himself. Now, during that kerfuffle, whatever, where they collide, Bullseye managed to get his hands on Daredevil's billy club, and somehow, just a testament to how bad it is, throws the billy club down the street far enough so that it takes a couple seconds to get to Daredevil. Daredevil misses grabbing it because of an explosion. Then it goes a couple more seconds down to Nachos, who stands there staring at it the whole time. And then it hits him in the chest, not down low, under his ribcage, the middle of his sternum, and buries itself about halfway in. Bullseye has some crazy special power. I actually mentioned in the chat that it's perfect aim essentially was his power, but he's got to have the ability to also make things penetrable or penetrating. So anything he grabs and throws at you can be something that he can use to penetrate you to die. It gets a super acceleration and perfect aim. It's like having a rail cannon for any object you grab. But when you only need to throw one per, I guess it's fine. He literally has the sniper rifle of superpowers. So of course, he's now framed Daredevil for Elektra Nachos' father's death. So Elektra now is turned on the Daredevil because for whatever reason she never saw the bald guy killing everyone. She just saw Daredevil. And what was he doing the whole time there if he wasn't fighting someone else? People mourning and going through tragedy do not think rationally, and then we just kind of got to move forward with that. I'm not even going to blame her having a bad character or being a bad actress, anything like that. You just got to roll with it because tragedy people are crazy people. So after a talk with Kingpin, Bullseye calls dibs on Daredevil. And of course, Kingpin's like, sure, you do that. Matt's abandoned Foggy for whatever reason, so he's working by himself. Not doing very well. Boom. Matt goes to Mr. Nachos' funeral. Elektra doesn't want to talk to him, but the reporter does. So we get this information slide out what's going on. And I think that's where he tells him that Fisk is Kingpin. Not sure how he knows, now that I think about it. So, regardless, Matt ends up hijacking the car of one of the witnesses that are on the stand, and it turns out like a pacemaker is Daredevil's weakness of all things. It's like he can't tell that he's lying because his heart always stayed the same because the pacemaker told it to, which is a pretty handy trick if you've got to be in high intensity situations, like for that to kind of remain the same. You want it to go a little higher, but at the same time you don't want it too high. Oh man, okay, I'm just gonna hit a couple scenes real quick because again, we've got a lot of scenes in here that are kind of empty. They're they're high calorie, so they're not worth chewing on for that long. So the secretary helps Foggy with the clue. It turns out like the mom thing was Wilson Fisk or whatever, upside down, date of the murder, which seems like a dumb clue for the sighted guy to miss. Just saying. You'd think at some point he would have seen it the other way around. At the Nacho's mansion, Elektra's lost her friggin' mind. She's like hanging sandbags from the ceiling in a place that obviously isn't meant to hang things from the ceiling, like unless it just has rafters I missed. So the staff's got to be real worried. They're putting out the resume. They're looking for new jobs because it's like, oh, the mistress has lost her mind. We should get out of here, Alfred, Reginald, whatever your name is. Known you for 20 years, and I can't remember your name. That's how badly this movie is. Or that's how bad this movie is. Okay, sorry. That's enough of the dumb joke. So, of course, after one training session, she is ready to go. And she goes out to stalk Daredevil. And Daredevil's out prowling. Bullseye's out prowling for Daredevil. Elektra's out prowling for Daredevil. And I can't tell if he waits on Elektra to find Daredevil first, or if it's just lucky happenstance. But Elektra like fights Matt, or well, she attacks Matt. Matt doesn't really fight back. As Daredevil, she puts a scythe through his shoulder, which is not a killing blow when you want to kill somebody. It's fucking dumb to do. Plus, like, it's not a cutting weapon either. It's actually a defensive weapon. It's designed to break swords, but you can also stab with them because, let's be honest, you need some kind of offensive action to take once their sword's broken. So, for whatever reason, like, she unmasks him and then she immediately regrets everything she's ever done. Because why would Matt kill her dad? Unless he's the evil Daredevil. Ooh. But I think for her to process it, like, too much loss in too short amount of time, and she's, like I mentioned, she's out of her mind. But Bullseye shows up, so she's like, somewhere I can put all my focus, and she goes, because she just abandons Matt there with the hole in his shoulder, and goes to fight Bullseye, and Bullseye ends up throwing aside Bullseye, and he's like, ooh, toy, and he puts a hole in her hand, which I thought was impressive that she kept using her hand properly after that point. And then what should have been an epic death scene really fell kind of flat. He ends up putting a scythe through her chest, and not only is there no blood, there's no hole in whatever little shirt she actually had. The scythe goes through her back and pushes her vest out instead of going through the vest and showing blood on the side. That's the way you do that to make that shot right. But I think they were trying to keep it PG-13, and maybe they'd hit their blood cap. I don't know. So she ends up tumbling down the roof. No blood on her anywhere. No hole in her body. Pretty obvious when you're looking. And he kind of calls it a night at that point. He's like, oh, feels good. And he was even using cape tricks on her with his jacket, which I know is a legitimate method, but it looks ridiculous. So, oh my god. So Daredevil, or I guess it's still Daredevil, ends up holding Elektra as she dies, as she fades from this world, as we all go alone. And then we shout back to the beginning. We shoot back to the beginning of the Mooney. Yeah, we shout back Mooney. We shoot back to the beginning of the movie, and we have Bullseye like coming back to after Daredevil, and other than like for that scene transition, no idea why he went away at all. Should have just got Daredevil while he was mourning Elektra directly. I mean, like, it probably would have worked. Just saying. Now, granted that Daredevil can actually like predictably move out of his throws, which he hates, which is the whole point of him trying to kill him, because he made me miss. Oh God. Okay. So, like I said, Bullseye comes after Daredevil in the church, and he's like laughing because he got him. He's like spinning around in a circle, like really weird stuff, just losing his mind. And Daredevil just throws the club at him and cracks his jaw. He's like, "Oh, we're serious, dude." So it's just sad. It's a sad moment because it's like I love that or that villain so much, but he's just a moment of like stupid craziness where he gets his jaw jacked for no real reason. Okay, let's see. So there's lots of swinging and jumping and falling because the church, again, or that steeple's 5 stories tall, and half of it is an organ. It's like a 2-story tall organ, or 3-story tall organ that like they're climbing up and down. They're like knocking pipes over, and the sound is messing with Daredevil. Bullseye ends up trying to use that to his advantage. It's very unclear if Daredevil just gets used to it after a point, or Bullseye realizes he's got to do something else on top of that to get him. Or maybe it's not sporting. So they end up having like a little throwing contest, which I don't understand either. So he's taking the stars out of his belt, which he reloaded somehow, and he's throwing them at Daredevil, and Daredevil ends up able to like use the force to collect them all in his billy club, and then throw it back at Bullseye, and Bullseye just goes gets jaw jacked again. And maybe the concussion or whatever that he has gives him this bright idea, because he's out of stars. He doesn't have anything left to throw, which is the problem with his power. It's like he has to have something to project. And he puts... It's really like a cool magic scene. Like he grabs the door frame, puts himself through the glass window above the door frame, manages to land before the glass that he pushed out, and then does this thing where he catches all the glass. Or not all the glass, but enough of the glass. And then he's throwing shards of glass, one at a time, mind you, somehow from a stack. It's literally like boop, 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 and he's able to throw it so that one leaves at a time. It's amazingly bad. But at some point in all this, like, Bullseye confesses that Fisk is the kingpin, so he confirms all the rumors. Because he thinks he has the upper advantage, but of course, by this point, the cops have moved in. We got a sniper in place, and I'm not sure what motivated for them to take the shot. Because they really, they didn't have one, really. But even if they did, like, you shoot one, the other one runs away. That's not really the thing. But he pulls it back, and then the bullet goes through his hands. So, like, now he has holes in his hands. Literal windows. If you know magic, that's a term. Or it's a term for when you can see stuff through people's hands. Like, I've got a window here. You can see my face. So when I palm things, you could see through that window into my house. So if I do magic, I've got to like hold a lot more tense than my hand normally would be. So when you see my hand tense, you can tell I'm palming something. It's a disadvantage that certain people have, but there's ways to get around it. Magic lesson over. He's like, I took away my hands. Have mercy. And then Daredevil puts him through the window, because that's what you should do in that scenario. And he falls 5 stories down onto the reporter's car, not a cop car. And he's like stroking out and everything. Pretty graphic. Like, they try to make a point of not putting blood in this movie. That's probably more graphic than any blood you put in the movie, honestly. And of course, because now he knows that Fisk is the Kingpin, for whatever reason, Kingpin's expecting him, because life is like a video game, right? So he knows that Daredevil's coming for him, and he's like, send the guards home, you get out of here, how to take the night off. Dude literally goes to a bar to start drinking. Because he knows it's over, because Kingpin's not taking Daredevil seriously. Like, you use your resources, and Kingpin didn't. He's like, I'll take care of it myself, because I'm Kingpin. And in the cartoons and stuff, in the comics, he's a huge guy. Like, he's like 2 Michael Clark Duncans, and he's not necessarily a fat guy. He's just big, and as a result of that, he's like really strong. But he's not superhuman strong. He's just really strong. He's more superhumanly strong than like a normal human, but he's not like Captain America strong. Like, he might be. I think Spider-Man would still beat him in an arm wrestling contest. Let's be honest. But like, he's much stronger than people normally would be. Just not superhero strong. I hope I made that clear. But they end up fighting, and like, Kingpin just trounces Daredevil. Mind you, this is like his 3rd fight. He's got a hole in his left shoulder that still isn't filled in. So I'm actually surprised he's able to use his arm properly. But for whatever reason, Kingpin happens to have all these fish tank type things around him. I think it's to absorb the sound, so like you can make sure there's less bugs. And it's got some good atmosphere to it. I'll give you that. But Daredevil ends up breaking those so that he can see Fisk, because otherwise I think it's absorbent sound, or it's too reflective. It's one of the two, whereas he can't see as well. But the rain happening gives him the advantage, and he goes for the kneecaps. Look, as someone with bad knees at too young an age, and who's getting bigger, big guys need their knees. If they don't have their knees, they fall down. They don't really go anywhere past that. And it's not because they don't want to. It's because they physically can't put weight on them to function. They don't want to be knees anymore at that point. So with his kneecaps broken, he's just sit there and wait. He might crawl around. That actually would have been interesting to see the scene when Michael Clark Duncan is crawling through the glass and water to get out of his office, and the cops show up to arrest him. And he's like, I made it. Whole 100 feet to the elevator, and then the door opens and cops just pour out over him. Like, they trip over him as they're coming out. That would have been funny. And he like crawls all the way into the elevator, and somebody just, hold on. Oh man, couldn't catch a break. It's Michael Clark Duncan has such a had such a deep, robust voice that like I don't know. I don't think I could rightly do an impersonation of him. Even this accent's wrong. So we're at this point. We're at like the 3rd ending of the movie, right? Because it ended like when he beat Bullseye. It ended when he beat Kingpin. So we kind of go into like this epilogue phase where like he wins his court case. Oh yeah, he had to drop whatever. We get to see Kingpin in prison. We get to see Bullseye in the hospital, and he's still able to use his power with his bucked up hands and his maimed body. So at the time I was really looking forward to seeing a sequel with Bullseye, or maybe even his own movie, because like the reinvention of this character, because he looks silly as hell in the comics, was fantastic. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing an origin story for Bullseye, like have him run around Ireland and then get noticed and be taken out around the world as a hitman, or however that story goes. And then Matt actually comes back, this is important-ish, and finds Elektra's necklace hanging up on his roof, or on their roof, or whatever. I think it's where she stabbed him, if I'm being honest. And it's in Braille too, so he knows it's her necklace. And sure enough, like, so it's an indication that she might still be alive. It could have been that somebody was a dick and hung up her necklace where he'd find it. Tomato, tomato. But on top of everything too, and this is something Matt Murdock deals with in the comics, like he gets outed a couple of different times and he manages to get around it by lying his ass off 2 or 3 times until like it finally sticks. So like, and I think at the time too, it's like he's already been tried and proven innocent of being Daredevil too many times at that point for them to convict him for it, but they're like, you can't do that anymore, and he's like, okay, and then he goes does it anyways. So I think the theory at that point is that there's more than one devil in Hell's Kitchen, but I don't remember. It's hard to keep up with those comics. They're very dramatic, and I didn't like the art style. A couple times I really dove in. I just couldn't keep up with it. But Marvel Knights did a good job with his design. So when New Avengers hit, like, I really liked that style of Daredevil aesthetically. But of course, the big problem that I just dodged there was that the reporter doesn't out Matt Murdock so that Daredevil can continue on. Because the theory is that if he outed him, that like they would go and arrest him. Like that would happen, superheroes would have to come in and to get him. What they'd probably do is hire Jessica Jones to go get him. That would probably be the thing, and that would actually have been a cool move to do back in the day. But with today's establishment of the Daredevil, it doesn't make as much sense. I'd like to see these street heroes do more, but it barely made sense for them to be in the New Avengers in the comic when it was organic. To kind of force it in the MCU, I don't think it'd land at all. As much as I'd love to see the Defenders go on and do other things, they've got streets to protect. But I mean, that was kind of the big deal for Spider-Man to come out too. Alright, so instead of talking about comics for another hour, I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching. This has been Bad Movie Club. Yeah, it has. Daredevil, as much as I like the movie, really when it comes down to it, I'm going to feel bad about it. I don't like Elektra, but that's what we'll watch next week. We got Doctor Strange for this week as well for We Are Movie Club that still got to talk about tonight. And then next week for that too, because it's double feature night, is Accepted. We're out of the Marvel U. So definitely go find the Doctor Strange podcast and keep watching with us over on Rabbit/Camerai. This has been Bad Movie Club. Right here on hashtag WeAreMovieClub. If you want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations and they'll take you to our other channels. Thanks for watching.